Hey everyone, this is Avatar Sage 7, and today I'm going to have a quickie review about is Warframe worth playing in 2021? Now, that's a bit of an interesting question depending on whether you are a new player interested in getting into this game or you're a veteran player. And obviously, I've spent about roughly 1,966 hours based on my records to date on this game so far, so I don't even know how many years it's been that I've played this. Must say some of the biggest advantages are that you don't really have to pay money to play this game if you're willing to grind all the in-game currency platinum by trading it on warframemarket.com. So in some ways, if you don't really mind the grind, then this game is perfectly fine to play if you don't want to dish out any cash. Now, obviously, if you want to support DE and their work with Warframe, I mean, this game isn't exactly the newest game in the world, but it's still an excellent looter shooter sci-fi action. And I wouldn't call it MMO, but a hub-based game, obviously. So this is an open world. There are open world zones, 3 of them now. In it of itself, it is not an open world game like Elder Scrolls Online or Guild Wars 2 or World of Warcraft. So is this game worth it? It will obviously depend on your personal preferences, but here are the things that I saw as the good and the bad of this game after having played about well over almost 2,000 hours of it so far. So one of the major good points is the gunplay, and the gunplay is probably one of the biggest reasons why anyone plays this game, really, not for the melee or anything like that, though the melee system hasn't revamped to melee 3.0, and they're working on 3.1. And the gunplay is just that smooth. There's just so many possible guns you can use. Like the shotgun here that I'm using, the Cedo, allows you to fire a bouncing blade that times, striking enemies and setting them on fire, or other status effects that you mod into your weapon. I mean, there's just so many possible guns you can use. Let's see, what other guns do I have here? Let's see here. Nucor, which is a beam weapon. Spawn some dumb enemies. Extremely hard to kill a Goxed out officer. This gun is not my most prowess, and then definitely would find it very difficult to kill most enemies at level 150, but for most players, you'll be usually fighting enemies somewhere in the lower than 100 levels. So, like I said, the gunplay is one of the big things for this game, obviously, and there's definitely satisfying, you know, kicks and feedback from the different weapons that you use. So obviously that's just some of the weapons that I happen to be using. I have far from all the other shotguns, for example, like Corinth Prime. Excellent shotgun. Mostly, a lot of the game is about making headshots to maximize damage. So there's a lot of satisfying kicks, like and reload animations. This is one of the more popular ones for the Corinth Prime, for example. So yeah, it used to be that if you fired explosive rounds, it would actually knock you over. It could even hurt or kill you. They got rid of that, but obviously you can see that lots and lots of different guns in this game have all sorts of different mechanics. Some fire weird wave shots, and others fire like bolts of radioactive railgun kind of shots and things like that. And it's quite amusing. And of course there is the melee, so the sword play is also one of the more excellent aspects of this. But of course most people come for the gunplay. So melee, here I have Conan Prime, one of the top slash-based weapons in this game. Now the meta slash and fire combinations allows you to kill you in the toughest level 150, even with their extremely high armor. And that's just one example. Obviously there are swords, there are hammers. If you don't really care about maximizing your DPS, then you can really play to your heart's content with any kind of weapon as well as any kind of gun. So you can obviously, like I said, launch jump attacks, fire guns while in midair. This is like smoother than the gameplay that I have when I played Destiny 2, which I just recently started. I mean, this is the kind of parkour type movement capability that you just can't get in a lot of other action games. I mean, not even Phantasy Star Online does it this well, as far as I'm concerned. I can literally roll dodge in mid-air, do side rolls, backflip if I want, slide. I even find Destiny 2 slide to be less smooth as this one actually. So, and that's of course one of the other great things about this game is just the movement is so fluid and so smooth. And like I said, you can literally run on walls, jump, whole lots of different things. So double jump. I also have a mod that gives me extremely high jump heights. And I tend to prefer using that over all others, even though it's not always optimal. Yes, Modus Signal. So excellent, excellent in terms of the movement capabilities, just the ability to bullet jump and travel very quickly. So bullet jump, boom, and then you can really cover the distance of the room extremely fast. It's just amazing. The loot is also one of the most important things, of course, in a looter shooter, and Warframe is not really about the loot that you might get in Destiny 2, for example, or Elder Scrolls Online, or other actual, well, I wouldn't say Elder Scrolls Online is a looter shooter, obviously, but it does have loot. And the things in Warframe is all about really material components, blueprints, and things like that. You sometimes get full items, but that's rare. Usually you're getting earning blueprints, which you build in the foundry on your ship. And so it's almost always crafting materials and blueprints and things like that. And crafting in Warframe is big. It is almost all about crafting. The loot is really about crafting the blueprints that you find to build the weapons. Like even this weapon that I'm using on Lavos here, the Alchemist Corinth Prime, I had to find and farm the parts in Void Relic missions. And when I found the blueprints or parts, I actually put them together because of a blueprint. Well, the actual parts themselves weren't blueprints, so they were actual parts, but you needed to find the actual blueprint to assemble the parts in order to make the actual Corinth Prime gun. So, in a way, the claim that Warframe is more of a farming simulator could be said to hold kind of true here. You are farming parts, not whole weapons, unlike games like in Destiny, where you would farm the exotic, but you'd have to go through an extremely lengthy and complicated mission. Here, though, in Warframe, you're usually farming missions over and over again just to get the drops after a certain number of times. Hopefully your luck is good. Some people's luck is great. They get on the first try. Some don't get until like 20 to 40 tries later of the same mission just to get the same part. So if that doesn't appeal to you, then obviously looters are probably not your kind of game. Yeah, so like I said, the mods also are things that drop, and the mods are the things that I just showed you in here. For example, the Warframe mods. These things can also drop in certain missions, but usually some of the hard to get ones you just trade from other players. Weapon mods. What is it? Melee mods. It's still weapon mods, really. And hell, you can find mods for your companions through various missions and various open world zones and various runs of different missions on different planets. And things, you can also find mods for your Arcwing, which is your flight system, the ability to fly like Iron Man. I mean, literally, that's one of the most less discussed things in this game is the fact that you can literally, if you want, go to the open worlds and fly. You just can't do it in every mission, unfortunately. It's very on the ground for the most part, but in the open worlds, it is possible to fly around and actually shoot people like Iron Man, but not with repulsor lifts or anything like that. So you get mods for that. You also have your own mech suit that you can transfer your consciousness into, or consciousness/body. And there are mods for all the weapons on this too. So lots of things that they've been adding to this game, lots of things to collect. It's literally, in some ways, a better game than Diablo or Destiny 2 if you don't like all those random rolls on loot where the stats are all over the place and you never manage to find the right combination of for triple 100 stats in Destiny or specific Diablo that actually has the traits that you want. So in this game, you're not farming for those traits like that. You are farming for the parts and the blueprints and things to assemble the amazing gear. So there are pros and cons to that. Some people prefer the endless loot grind of Path of Exile, for example, where the traits can be all over the place. You never know exactly what's the best combination unless someone else has been doing all the work for you. So for a more casual player, uh, this is pretty good, an acceptable thing, really. But for those who are super grinders who like the surprise of a big payoff from a god-rolled loot item like you might find in Destiny, or a super crazy unique or exotic in Destiny or in Diablo or Path of Exile, uh, you might not find this to be as appealing because obviously you don't have the thrill of the hunt for the uh, one specific item after going through an extremely difficult raid. There are no raids in Warframe for now. They had it, but then they removed it apparently. So yeah, like I said, this means that everything from the missions is not necessarily trash or anything like that that you might have in Destiny, Path of Exile, or Diablo. You don't break it down. It's just all blueprints and materials that you can always save for some other day when they decide to use that for building stuff. So what else is great is also the variety of warframes, of which there is a large number. It's like, think of it like classes, but each frame has its own special kit of powers, special rules, special things that they can do. So let's see, I don't want to change my mutable. Let's go to my gear level to show you this. So you have like the glass battle warframe Gara. You've got the water frame Hydroid. You've got the archer of stealth Ivaran. The Egyptian tanky Pharaoh Inaros. I mean, they all have their various rules. So if you like a game where you have unlimited possible ways of playing after you get all, well, most if not many of the frames, then Warframe is definitely for you because you're going to have this huge variety that you can literally switch to at any time you want. I mean, if you want to be a walking tank, you could be Lavos, you could be Inaros, like Inaros on the screen right now, Lavos, which I was just at as the Alchemist. Um, if you want to be like a super damage dealer, you could be Titania, who can turn herself into a little wasp and then has guns that can kill enemies and is so small that it's hard to kill. You could be Volt with electricity and super speed. You could be Sauron with her viral biological attacks or kill entire rooms of enemies. So there's literally no limit, no one class. Your one account has all the possible frames that you can collect or build. And so you have an unlimited number of classes you can switch to, assuming you've built that frame on a single account. So this is like the only other game I can think of that is this good at giving you that kind of variety. The only other one is Final Fantasy, A Realm Reborn, where your little one character can take all the jobs, but here you literally have frames that you, the operator, can suit yourself into, essentially, that you can really transfer your consciousness slash body form. So the operator can transfer themselves between warframes. This is my operator. The operator can be customized, but they didn't do a very good job of doing operator customization, to be honest. Their focus system remains untouched for years so far, and a lot of its abilities are not amazing. Some of them have too many negatives as well as the positives, which makes it less likely that anyone would really care to, shall I say, use operator abilities for the most part, except for the most popular passive ones. So I also said about the mods, and that's also one of the great things about this. The modding capability in this game is far more advanced and complex than I would say. It's almost, I mean, Destiny tries to emulate it Destiny 2, but it's not as close as or as flexible, I feel, as the system in Warframe, which I think has the best ability to mod your Warframe to your heart's content to do whatever you want for the most part within the special abilities that are already within uh, that specific type of frame. Of course, they've also added the helmet system that allows you to take one power from another frame and add it to your current Warframe in a new kind of loadout setup so that you can change that. I haven't bothered to grind the helmet system because I just don't really care to spend that much time. It's a huge resource investment to do that. So a lot of this, like I said, is a bit of a grind. But if you're patient and you have no, you're casual and you have no particular rush to do that, I mean to get to all the frames or mastery rank 30, then I think it should be fine. I personally had no problem playing the game, and since if you choose to play this game totally free, then obviously you have all the time in the world if you wish, as you have to pay no money to limit yourself, if you desire. So like I said, best modding system I've seen to date. You can literally mod everything, your Warframe, your weapons, your mechs, uh, your companion can be modded in different ways. You make them totally just support your damage, or you can actually give them other abilities that either boost your shield, defend you, increase your damage, enhance your critical hits. You can mod your flight system, which we call the Archwing, which they'll soon change so that it only exists in Railjack. You can mod your Necromech or mech robot. Not Your Warframes are not robots, they're biological systems, kind of biosuits, really kind of think of like Evangelion. Really, I guess, is the closest kind of bio version thing you can think of, but these are like human-sized things. Obviously, these mechs are only maybe 9 feet tall. So as long as you have enough endos and credits, you can literally build up and enhance the mods for any of these items that you have here. So obviously I can't access the mod system from in here. I'd have to be on my orbiter if I'm correct. So if I go to upgrade, actions, yeah, I can't do the mods in the simulacrum or my danger room. So the content is also one of the things that is good, but later on it can also be one of the things that maybe is not so good. But let's talk about the good. Uh, Warframe is made up of a lot of different game modes, like a ton of them, and if you're looking from anything from assassination, sabotage, capture, uh, things like that, you're just gonna have lots to choose from, obviously. I have a huge list of possible ones that I have written down: void relics, invasions, sorties, arbitrations. There are the standard quests that from other games that you might have, but there are not many. Railjack space fighting missions, Arkwings, arenas, Kuva siphons, sentient invasion missions, uh, Eidolon hunting, disruption modes, and Steel Path is like the super hardcore veteran mode that is for players who have extremely powerful frames and weapons, and maybe not for the more casual player to go through that one. It's only if you've completed the entire star chart. So there's a lot of game modes they've added to this game, not necessarily open worlds or anything like that. But you can see there's definitely many mission types and modes to choose from, despite it not being an open world. So technically speaking, you won't be too bored if you're learning to play a variety of different game modes or mission types. The microtransactions in this game are probably one of the friendliest. Like I said, you can literally pay for any cosmetic by grinding out prime parts through void relics and then selling them to other players for platinum, which is the in-game currency, and then using that platinum to purchase i.e. cosmetics or other things that you want. Uh, who knows? Maybe convenience items, for example. Can you see the market from here? Let's see. If I wanted to equip, I believe you can buy things from within the menus. So this is the equip menu or equip section. Yes, you can even purchase The base frames, I just haven't bothered because I just don't see a point. 'Cause some of these are quite a bit of a grind. Like Protea is a pain. Probably good with a team of people to grind that to get her. Some of these others, I have Trinity Prime. It's actually easier to get the primes from the Void Relics than it is to actually get the base frames, which you grind at planets in certain missions. I've almost got a Wisp. She's like a support frame. Yeah, so literally you can buy cosmetics, do fashion frame and things like that, and if you want to whip out a credit card, you definitely can, but if you just want to not pay a single dime, you can also play the game that way by grinding Void Relics and selling it for platinum. It takes a while, and you can certainly be done. And the only other game that's as generous in terms of microtransactions and the way they do it is probably Guild Wars 2, which is also optional. You can literally play that entire game without subbing at all, really. So both Warframe and Guild Wars 2 are both games that don't require a sub. You just really pay for cosmetics and other convenience items as you desire at different times. And they do give you discounts periodically, like 25%, 50%, or even sometimes 75% at different times of the year regularly. The graphics of Warframe are also decent and reasonable. It's not a new game by any standard, but it has an exceptionally well optimized graphic system such that if you see on my screen there, I think you can see it, the relay overlay here shows DirectX 11 with 60 FPS almost all the time. Very well optimized for most graphics cards, including the GTX 1660 Ti. I think this is running on NVIDIA GeForce Experience optimal settings, so those settings aren't always optimal, I might add. So definitely, I have to say that FPS stutters are pretty rare for most part, unless certain updates manage to introduce some stutters. I had that recently, like a month or two ago, but so far Warframe hasn't had anything serious. I guess from too many special effects. I could probably lower the quality levels, but I think keeping textures high is fine as long as you kill shadows. Usually, it's always the best way. The special effects of some weapons in Warframe villains can get pretty flashy or screen filling, especially Bubonico. But it's definitely nowhere on the level of Devil May Cry or other flashy Asian games. So let's say I haven't used Bubonico in ages. This one's considered quite an annoyance to other players usually because it's all fires extremely explosive rounds that usually causes this gaseous burst. Mine isn't too bad because I chose a very light see-through color, but some others have chosen some crazy neon greens that really obscure vision during a fight. So definitely can be kind of wacky. So those are the good things about Warframe. But what about the bad things? Well, the gunplay can also be a bit of a downer recently, because after they came out with Melee 3.0, guns became a lot weaker. They felt weaker because melee weapons, you can literally use them and build up a combo counter, and that combo counter literally allows you to get 12 times the damage of the base weapon, which, what does this mean? It means that you can literally annihilate them with melee way more easily than you could with a gun. Even level 150 enemies, if you have a melee weapon, they will just scream no matter what. Even if it's not the best melee weapon in the world. If I had to use a gun on these people, like 4 at a time, I would literally, it would take me far longer to kill all of them. Unless I use point-time explosive air bursts. See, I've already reached 12 times multiplied in the bottom right corner there, as you can see. I'm using fire on this corrosive. All done. Dealt with. So As you can tell, well, sort of you can tell, but if you were to play this game right now, guns are definitely in regular content for casual players. Guns are fine, but when you start taking this to like extremely tough content like sorties, arbitrations, stuff where it's like level 70, 80, 90, 100, 100 plus enemies, then the guns start not having very much of a effect. They are usually only best used to like prime enemies for status effects or explosions, and then cutting them down with melee. So they are working on balancing that a little bit, or to increase the power of guns and slightly nerfing melee weapons, but they haven't really done that just yet. Uh, another thing that I have a bit of a gripe with in terms of Warframe is, of course, the damaging abilities and powers. So a lot of the abilities, like I said, they're similar to the guns. They're great at low level, like below level 60, but after you go past like level 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 100 plus, entering levels of arbitration, sorties, and steel path based missions, then your many powers that don't scale on some of the older frames are so weak that you can't kill anyone with it. So, for example, Gara here has a direct damage ability. It's her ability to shoot glass shards or glass ring. And I'm gonna bring up these level 150 enemies. They're pretty powerful already. Like this would be considered top-notch enemies. These are some of the toughest enemies to kill in the game. So if I were to use my damaging ability to kill them, not a single one of them was killed. But if this was like a level, if they were level 20, they'd be dead instantly. So if I were to shoot them again, I didn't even hurt them at all. So you can tell that Gara's one ability, which is her, whatever, shard ability or something like that. Abilities. Shatter Glash literally doesn't scale with the level of the enemies. So it literally, at these levels, it's best not to even use this ability. You're better off using crowd control abilities, abilities that you know, stun them or crowd control them or keep them busy, like this one here. This one makes them attack your mirrors, allowing you to shoot them freely. So at higher levels, damaging abilities become, for many of the frames, more frames become less useful unless it's like an ability that also strips them, debuffs them, crowd controls them. So damage abilities and powers are really not that great, and could do with a lot of adjustment by developers to make it more feasible to use, because damaging abilities are part of the kits of many of these many warframes, and after a while they just become totally useless, which means you have to revert to either an extremely powerful melee weapon, which is very likely, or like an extremely powerful gun, which is even less likely because guns just aren't as powerful as melee weapons. The enemy and companion AI in this game is questionably okay, but not amazing. I've actually seen more difficult to kill enemies with better AI, making them dodge and jump around in Destiny 2 than I have in Warframe. These guys literally just... Right now I didn't turn on their AI, so they're not doing anything, they're standing still. But even if I were normally playing these and they had their AI operational and not in this training room, they would literally just most of the time stand there and just shoot you. Sometimes take a little bit of cover, but not very intelligently, and they don't do anything to, you know, like in Destiny 2 where you have the fallen. They actually, if you start pointing your gun at them, they actually start taking evasive maneuvers. In Warframe, these guys, they rarely do that. So they literally just run straight towards you and you just gun them down. And that's fairly disappointing. They're mostly just bullet sponges at that point, especially at high levels. So, literally speaking, I mean, the Grineer gunners here, these heavy units, are the only ones who might actually launch a ground stun that knocks you, bowls you over it, and then could end up getting you killed if you're not careful. Only if you get too close. So like I said, compared to Destiny 2, the AI in this one is questionable. Not exactly that I'm looking for. They're still dangerous enemies, but only because of the sheer amount of enemies coming at you and the firepower they can rain down with their guns. Also, like I said before, the content is both its strong point, but also in some ways also its weak point, because a lot of the content is stuff that you have to grind over and over again to get the parts, to get the blueprints, to get the material. So if you really wanted a main quest or side quest stories, they exist. But DE hasn't done much to develop that in a long, long time. I can't really show you without going back to the orbiter anyways. And there's probably like, if I remember off the top of my head, like, I don't know, 15 to 20 missions total. If you're looking for stuff that doesn't involve other players, and those are all almost all solo missions. It only takes like a handful of hours to get through them, and once you're done, that's it. There's nothing, no more quests to do solo, really. Nothing to advance the story, nothing to keep you invested in the world. So this is definitely no Mass Effect. And the choices that you make during any of the main or the side quests don't seem to have any real impact on your playthrough, even though they do register that some of your choices in terms of darkness light meter, like sun, moon, sun or darkness. Let me show you here. Where was it? Oh, I don't think I can show it to you in here. No, that's just options. Yeah, I have to go back to the orbiter. Abilities, arsenal. No, that's just going to bring me to the arsenal screen. So that's pointless. So it's literally a meter that exists, but it doesn't really have any impact on the story or the gameplay. So it's like this. You'll eventually see it when you go look at your profile. I won't show it here because this means I have to run back to the orbiter again. Also, maybe a downside is the fact that it's hub-based. It's a hub-based looter shooter, so if you're more of a fan of open-world games, I would say like Destiny 2, for example, all of its zones are more open-world. They're not hub-based missions. Or like WoW, for example, then you're probably going to be not that interested in Warframe because it is a hub-based action looter shooter. So there's only like 3 open world zones in all of Warframe, which is like Deimos, Fortuna, and the plains of Eidolon or Cetus. So compared to like the numerous open world zones and regions in games like Elder Scrolls Online, Guild Wars 2, and Destiny, well, Destiny's not that much actually, but it's still definitely more than what Warframe boasts. Then you're probably not going to be that interested in this game. So, like I said, the devs so far have had no additional plans to expand the current open world zones, except for maybe their Duviri Paradox one, where you might explore the void, but that's about it. So that might be the 4th open world zone, but again, no specific timeline when that's going to happen. And of course, the other issue that you might have is the grind. So obviously, if you don't like grinding, if you want something even more casual, then probably Guild Wars 2 would be a more suitable game, but that is not an action looter shooter, that's an actual MMORPG. So I can't even think of a game where action looter shooter where you don't grind something. So Warframe definitely has that. The game modes do require you to grind for materials, so you're not grinding entire pieces of loot, like I said before, you're grinding materials. So that might not appeal to a lot of people, because a lot of people want to grind for loot that has special traits that gets them excited. But if you're grinding for materials, then you're just farming, then you don't really feel excitement for grinding materials, even though it could build you something interesting like an extremely powerful gun. So the incentive and the way you visualize it, it just depends on who you are and what kind of person you are. So like I said, Warframe is very much more like a farming simulator than an actual looter shooter. So like I said, if you want to get most of the platinum in-game currency, you're going to have to grind Void Relics. I've said that numerous times already so far, so I'm just emphasizing again that if you don't want to whip out your credit card, then you're going to need to grind Void Relics over and over and over again, and to get Prime parts, which then you sell to other players who didn't get platinum, and then or buy platinum with real world money, and then they trade it to you, and you have platinum, so you can now buy cosmetics or convenience items. So if you want to be super casual and don't want to grind anything or uh, like that, then don't expect to have too many warframes or weapons to work with as you complete the star chart. So in conclusion, really, Warframe's been around for a while. I think this game came out in 2013. It's pretty old, actually. Or was it 2017? No, it's definitely not 2017. It's 2013, I believe. So it's not the new kid on the block anymore. But it still has some of the best movement and gunplay around. Destiny is getting better. Gunplay in Destiny is pretty good, but its movement is nowhere near as smooth as Warframe, in my opinion. If Destiny 2 had Warframe's movement capabilities, the ability to move around like crazy, I would be like ecstatic practically. And is the game worth checking out? It's definitely worth checking out if you're a new player because it costs you nothing to play this game. It's totally free for almost everything, all the expansions, everything is available to you. The question of whether you can, uh, you know, grind all the stuff to get all the frames that you want is a totally different story, though. And all the cosmetics as well. So the gunplays, the melee and whatnot is all fast and smooth. The movement system is great. There's variety. There's weapons and mods. I mean, this is probably the best modding system in a game I've practically ever seen. There's no other game I can think of that does better than Warframe in terms of modding, maybe. Hell, not even Destiny 2 has yet managed to get the right formula for their game. And so if you're looking for a free game with little upfront investment, little to none practically, this is the game for you. This works well if you're a casual player because you're unlikely to burn through all the mission types and the content. Like I've already done 1,966 hours of Warframe, and frankly, I haven't even done all of the possible content in this game practically. But if you hate grinding and especially farming for materials as opposed to farming loot drops with randomized traits like you find in Diablo or Path of Exile or Destiny 2, then this game might not be for you. But otherwise, if you're a casual gamer who just needs a 20-minute break of just shooting stuff without worrying too much about uh, clearing mission objectives, well, it still involves mission objectives, but at least you know that you're doing one mission, 20 minutes, you're done, that's it. Unlike Destiny 2, sometimes you just do that, you have a bunch of mission objectives and it might require you to jump halfway across the map and might take you longer than 20 minutes. So I wouldn't class this as maybe your main looter shooter, unless of course maybe there's more story content provided regularly or their loot system changes from farming simulator to actual looting farming simulator. So that's my review of Warframe in 2021. It'll probably change, but considering the pace of the world situation and the way developers are coming out with new content, it might be a while before this review goes kind of out of date. I think most of this is pretty balanced so far. So, like I said, please like this video, subscribe if you find this to be fairly informative. Feel free to support me on Subscribestar. And if you have any content or questions and things that you want me to answer or to talk to you about, feel free to leave that information or get in touch with me in the comments below or through my website. Thank you very much, and signing off.